All right. We are back for another episode in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, the controversial counselor, David Lorenzo Glover. Joining me is my co-host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Get a small one tonight. Get a small one.
So tonight we have a special guest, the future City Council member of Niagara Falls, Brian Archie. Um, Make sure you tune in, and if you're listening right now, you are tuned in. Um, but basically, he's running for the Niagara Falls City Council, and we're going to be talking about several things tonight, whether it's leadership, motivation, state of the city, maybe employment. So this interview will be streamed live on Facebook and YouTube, and we're here. But let me first give you a quick snapshot of who Brian is, and then he's going to summarize and go into more details. Brian Archie is a resident leader of the City of Niagara Falls. He's a husband, father, grandfather, and servant leader of the community. Presently, he works for Niagara University as an outreach worker for children and families. He co-leads a voluntary organization that creates a Healthier Niagara Falls Collaborative, and as an organizing coach and facilitator with people, power, and health. The work with this team allows him to deepen and grow his practice of teaching and coaching community organizing among health leaders and activists. His journey in community organizing started in 2015 when one of the collaborative leaders posed a simple question to him regarding his vision for the community in which he lived. He had no idea that his opinion mattered, let alone that it had the power to change the circumstances that the community that he lives in. So he started to attend meetings with organization heads about issues in the community, mostly without the community present or available for their input. That was an aha moment. Being deemed marginalized doesn't mean being powerless. Let's see. This is a long one. So he underwent then to the identity other residents to identify other residents with the same value system and more than there were toward changes that were built by us and for us. This is how to build people in power. He has since had many other opportunities to serve the community, such as creating opportunities for healthy food and physical activity, such as biking and walking. And it's been many times I've been in Niagara Falls and seen Brian on his bike getting around. So we're going to summarize this. So presently, he's a board member for Niagara Falls Housing Authority in Heart, Love, and Soul. He was appointed in July 2022 to the New York State Racial Equity Working Group to help craft and implement policies with the Office of Health and Minority Health Disparities Prevention. He's also presently the chair of the Niagara Falls Human Rights Commission and member of the Niagara Falls chapter of the NAACP. And in this work that he leads with the belief that we are only as healthy as our neighbors, and by reaching one, we teach many. So there you have it. So Brian's been quite busy doing a lot of community work, being an activist, and I know that type of work is probably tiresome, and sometimes you may feel like, probably, is it even worth it? Especially, you might not see the immediate results of things happening, but I mean, we need leaders like that in the city to kind of help build and kind of guide and direct the younger generation so that we can, try to turn this thing around and keep moving forward. But without further ado, we're going to have Brian kind of chime in, and then, then we'll get going.
That's cool. Thanks, DG, my man.
No problem.
Been a minute, and I appreciate the invitation to the show. And Brother Herb, what's happening over there?
Man,
Big Bad Wolf's Corner.
Just it's just another day, man. Keeping my head above water.
Right. So I'll just a little bit about me, and I have to make just a small correction because I don't want people to say I'm embellishing anything. I'm a former chair the Human Rights Commission for the City of Niagara Falls, and a prior member of the NAACP under the leadership of our dearly beloved Shirley Hamilton, who just passed away not long ago. And so thank you for that intro, right, Dave? So I often lead with that story regarding my invitation into the work that happened back when I'm working for Niagara Falls Memorial Medical Center. And like I said, it was really odd. Woman was already Evelyn. She's a union steward with 1199 SEIU. Whoop, whoop, shout out. And she just stopped me one evening, 2:00 in the morning, and just, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. And that's a place that you used to work, David. So I know you understand, like, you're moving about trying to just do your thing, and it's the middle of the night. And I was just like, whoa, wait. But the question, what can you do, right? When I say nobody had ever asked that before, it's really true, because they hadn't, right? It was a challenge that she presented me with, and also a hope shot to identify, like, right, we build power with each other, but there's also power within self, right? If we start just doing the next right thing after the next right thing. And what I see outside of self in community, these things that we were commenting on right before the show came on, is like, they don't have to be our reality, because, I can get to work. We can get to work. And, like, in that sense, it didn't take me long to understand, right? If I'm on the corner complaining, I can't do anything. So, like, let's turn that around. And to this day, like, I understand, like, whatever it is, I need to be just ready to be of service. And my entry point and the place that I focus to this day is still when we talk about health, community health. And for me, it started out with, like, that identifying, and somebody had to tell me this, because I was living in the space, like, hey, you're in a food desert. What you gonna do about that? And I'm like, what do you mean food desert? I know what that is. I know how to go to the corner store and get chips and honey buns. Right, Herb?
Yeah.
I know how to make it to slip codes and get the things that the family needs. And what was so crazy is, like, I wasn't even connecting the fact that I was putting unhealthy things into my body. And so, like, that was the simplest thing, right? Let's educate ourselves, and then try to spread that with others. And, along with that started to come opportunities for physical activity, whether walking, biking, alone or with others. And then beginning to, like, look at housing, like, what is safe, sanitary, and affordable housing? What does that look like? And how do we try to activate that? And it's been a struggle. Like, everything doesn't take off. I believe that we sit in a place of hopelessness, because so many things have transpired over the years. So much disinvestment has happened over the years that many of us are, like, stuck in that rut. And I just feel like my job is to try to be on the other side of that, and work with others in the same space.
So when you say it's a struggle, has it been a struggle as far as even when you started out with the community health and awareness? How did people receive that information? Because I know a lot of people, you could talk that to them about living a healthy lifestyle, working out and stuff like that. And a lot of times people may frown upon that and kind of like, okay, who the hell you think you are, or whatever the case is. I'm fine. And a lot of times people think they're invincible and think that they're gonna live forever.
So I'm glad you said that. So that definitely a hard conversation to start with, but it was about realizing my own deficiencies first.
Yeah.
And in doing that, making small changes that folks I was engaging with could actually see, right? We always need someone to model after. And it takes a while, but I understand that we have to meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, if I take food, for instance, we eat what our money buys.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just what it is. And to have a healthier lifestyle shouldn't actually be so expensive at all. How do you counter that? What's an action that you can do? Try to have a small community garden. And that's something I've been involved in for years, right? And it was weird because when I think back to when I was a kid, my grandparents always had a garden. You know, meats came from slip coats or whatever, and everything else came from the back of the house. You know, and we got away from tending the land as we got older, because things became readily available. Hence fast food, microwaves, and just junk food in general. And it's wild because it takes a minute for us to see the effects on a community, right? You feel like, okay, this is just me, and what I'm doing just affects me. But if there's 10s and 20s of us, right, that are maybe not eating as healthy, maybe are not as physically active, maybe are not as tending to our health and well-being to the best of our ability, right? And not saying that there aren't other things in place that hinder some of that, such as transportation and access to doctors. And that's a whole nother separate conversation. That kind of creates this thing in a community where it's like, is our community healthy? Like, I feel like I'm only doing as well as my neighbors are. Like, so if my neighbor is struggling, right, to make ends meet and, pay their bills and put food on the table and get the kids off to school, and if they're struggling, so am I, because we live in proximity to each other. And so that's another thing that I believe that we should try to connect with our folks. That's something that we don't do today. Knowing who lives amongst us and being able to try to build resources from that sense, instead of just it's about me. So yeah, hopelessness is real, and I believe there's a way to counter that, but it's with one, becoming aware, and then how do we get with those same like-minded individuals to get to work.
Herb, you got any question?
Questions. There's always questions. The one thing is, and I'm sure this is probably something that you've encountered. How do you get people motivated, at least from your perspective, to actually go out and vote, especially minorities, because a lot of us seem to have the mindset that voting doesn't matter?
So if I think about my own experience, my grandmother, this was something she didn't play about. She came from the South, and she understood the struggle and the fight to get to the place where folks that looked like me could actually cast a vote. And so, registering to vote wasn't an option, and placing that first vote at 18, that wasn't either. Right. And so at some point, it's like, okay, I'm going to engage in this process. I need to educate myself on what's happening. And I think that while our government is all of it, right, is an asset, right, we still need to lean into each other and our own understanding, our own knowledge and understanding, to help prop up the things that we would like to see happen within our government system. And the most critical way to do that is to really focus on local elections, which is why, for me, it's like, yeah, let's run for city council. There was some time ago when I would have said I have a great distaste for the political system, not realizing that all of our interactions have some sort of politic to them, right? That just in general. And I'm like, okay, what is the best way to have an impact on the largest number of members of this community?
Right.
And it is by trying to get a seat at the table where these decisions are being made. And for me, that's where city council comes in. Knowing that, right? I'm not promising the world. What I'm promising to do is to get there and be the best steward that I possibly can while I'm in the chair, right? And including the people in those decisions to the extent that I can. But it takes all of us still, right? We get an elected official, we put them there. It still takes the input and work of the people. There's some questions coming. Do y'all want?
Well, I could,
one was a statement by Sean Levesque, and which was partially directed to me. But this
My
one
man
is
Sean, where is he at?
If you want to put that one back up, David, what Sean said. He says, asset-based community development helps with all of that, boss. Our views on the community are similar. The answer is emotional intelligence. And he was responding to the question that I was asking you. So that was Sean Levesque.
Okay.
And then you can put up the one by Roxanne.
It takes two of us, I guess. Okay. What's happening, Sean?
Yeah. And Roxanne Young asked, if you are elected, what do you think you can attack and make change in a short time? And what do you think will take longer to accomplish?
Oh, wow. So I can answer the latter part of that first. So I really believe that, so Niagara Falls has always been an industrial hub, and we are no longer a place of manufacture. We still have some spots here and there, but there's been a lot of damage that has been done to our environment as a whole. Starting with Love Canal, if I'm just being honest and saying it out loud, right? And I don't think that we've been good stewards of the land. And so what will take longer to accomplish is to understand that we need to start investing in our environment so that our young people have some place to call home in the next decade or two. We just saw a couple of days ago the fires from Canada being blown over, and we already have an air quality issue. So I'm asthmatic. I was in for a couple of days, just from not being able to breathe. And we have specifically in the north, and I can only speak to the north end. With these numbers, there's a super high rate of lung disease and asthma, especially in our kids. And so I think what will take longer is that environmental shift and that environmental justice work to really take hold. In a shorter span of time, I think that we have opportunity to find some jobs to bring here that would sustain us more than our tourist period is. And so I say that we have employment for the majority of our folks here that doesn't last past the summer. So we are in need of prevailing wage jobs. We are in need to really bring businesses here. And whether that is even, in my mind, it says, I know so many people right now that are entrepreneurs, are small business owners that have such difficulty just opening a storefront. And I just don't think that should be. And I would really like to dig into that and understand the dynamics behind it and why it is so difficult for someone that has an idea, has something that they could be, they may be at home actually just with their permit making it happen, but have opportunity to kind of develop a small business hub here that may lead us to some other spaces. So when we talk short term, I believe jobs is the focus.
Well, one of the things and I've always, and I'm on record as saying this, and Sean can tell you that as well, is the two-tier tax system. And I think that, along with how New York State taxes things, and New York State, let's face it, they're sitting in their backyard just, in terms of what they're doing with the New York State Power Authority and things of that nature, their hand in the state park really puts a tourniquet, if you would, I want to use another word, a tourniquet around the ability to create jobs in this city. And I've always said, the one of the things that can be looked at is allocating money through the budget to start to help people like people you just mentioned. So, and I know the city can't bank loans, but in some way help to generate things that people want to. I would always tell people, look at that aspect of what city council can do, whether that's getting a provision in the charter to do that or things of that nature. So that's one of the other things I think that can be done as well. But that's, like I said, that's up to the city council, which you will actually certainly be in the position to do that.
So I literally just a couple of days ago had a conversation with somebody about the two-tier tax system, and they, it's not beneficial for the folks that are here, right? And so, I feel that we have, yes, and people may not like this. We have the Power Authority, and we have the falls, the attraction, and we are sandwiched in between both of them. Each of these spaces generates tens of millions of dollars, of which we really don't, in my opinion, see our share. For me, there needs to be some sort of reinvestment into that for us, and or renegotiation of what happens for parking in parks. We have an airport that's owned by NFTA. How can those monies be helped to generate revenues to take some of the burden off of our taxpayers here in the city? All of the assets are here. I just don't know that we have had the opportunity to really get down to brass tacks and say, like, this is what we need to do for our people to thrive. I feel like we've always moved through a deficit mindset, and waited for things to be brought to us. But I believe we have opportunity to really leverage our resources and get what we need for our folks to thrive.
Let me, Sean had made another statement. He said, the emotional intelligence part was to you, Herbert. You asked, how do we motivate people? Community builders or come along siders like us need to use our emotional intelligence to help encourage the ones that haven't been identified as needed community assets. We all have talents to offer each other.
Absolutely.
To Brian, we view community and the need for teething similarly. If we lean on our community and use government as a tool, we will build our dreams rather than have someone else come into our homes.
And right, and I like the and so what he's saying is, for me, we really just need to see some small wins from us to understand that we still have the power to build and move forward.
Yeah,
it's a difficult place to be. It's a difficult thing to build up, but I know that it can happen. You know what I mean? Ones and twos of us at a time, really being exposed to because once the blinders are off, it's like, oh wow, wait, this is going on. What's happening over here? Who did right? Like, we are a lot of times closed off and not participating. Mm-hmm. And then by the time we show up, decisions have already been made. And that again is moving from a deficit mindset. We need to be in position from go, to share our thoughts, to share our presence, to let folks know that we are watching and paying attention. and then coming back within our own little groups and block clubs and things of that nature to say like, okay, how can we work with this? And if it doesn't work with what we're trying to really build in our city, what is it that we need to do? I firmly believe that everybody wants a good job. They want a safe place to live. They want to be safe within their community and just be able to provide for their families. And the problem is we have many different thoughts on how to get there. And when those thoughts diverge from others, we immediately find a place to fight. And for me, I call that going to sleep, because the noise cancels out. And then whatever happens. And again, we wake up like, what? What just occurred? Well, we're busy over here bickering about nothing. Train doesn't stop.
See, for me, when Sean speaks on that emotional intelligence, some of that, it's hard to kind of control. It's hard to kind of control that. And I'm one who always speaks and says that, even when you think about the school system and we put so much emphasis on academics, and then I often say, well, what about the social aspect? And I think that's where a lot of struggles in the community come from, because people have difficulties problem solving and their emotional intelligence is not where it's supposed to be. So instead of working together or realizing this person is doing something good, let's rally behind them and so we can move forward. Oftentimes they're finding, as you say, that negative deficit mindset, that why things won't work, or because things are always been the same way, so they kind of get being comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's what they build themselves on.
Listen, the one of the longest conversations I think we've probably had as of late is our youth and what can we do for our youth. Well, I'm not a young person, right? And right, so let's ask some young people what actually would resonate with them in their city to get them to a place that they actually believe that we care about their well-being, right? To put them in a place that they have a springboard to do some things that are positive. We talked before the call about being in a place where there were resources, and the resources were either financial or places to go, such as community centers, but also having mentors in the community that really try to show and direct you right from wrong, try to uplift you when, just to get you to a place of excellence so that you could do well for yourself. And we are now living in a time when, folks are afraid to even speak to some of our young people.
Yeah.
And they identify that, right? So we're right. They identify the push off, and we have to combat that in social media and tech devices and all the rest of it. And so now we have a separation, right? So this is a generation of folks that we need to connect with because they're our future, but we're afraid to do so. So for me, again, it's about like, one, share my journey and my story with as many of them as I can, right? And help to identify the place of hope that I found when somebody decided to take a moment for me. And then redirect to, listen, poverty is a thing, but we don't have to be there. What do? We work with some of our organized labor and trade folks, and we get some jobs here, prevailing wage jobs that allow our people to live their best life, right? Should they so choose. We get people in safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And so it's like, wait a minute, we don't need any more projects. I agree, right? I agree. For me, generational wealth comes from home ownership, and we have enough properties that we can work with some developers that I know are ready to do so. to re-engage some of these areas, right, and get them ready for people that are ready to buy homes and to start building some wealth and building back communities as they once were. And then, you know, to that previous question about that long-term goal, it's really to clean up and preserve our land as we have it. Air quality is rough. Things under the ground, right? I'm trying to be nice about it. Like, you know, we have a lot of holes that have been dug and filled with things that shouldn't be there. We have a lot of abandoned factories that have been left unmaintained in our city, right? We need to address that, and I think that we can do it together. I truly believe so. Only takes ones and twos of us to really start the movement to get us there.
And to what you said about the abandoned, because I live within a stone's throw of Buffalo Avenue, and a lot of brownfields are down there, and there's a segment of construction, if you will, called deconstruction. Those skill sets, whether you're in deconstruction or construction, they travel and they pay the prevailing wage that you're referencing. You know, we have a lot of community organizations that are in this city. Some are small, some are bigger. Some are, like you said, the ones and twos of people. And some of those lack grant writers. And for people that don't understand how important a grant writer is an individual who can write grants that get these non-for-profit organizations money so they can go out and get kids off of the street, kids who are at risk, give them a skill set so they can go out and market that themselves. So whether they're here or they travel somewhere else in the country, they're always employable because that type of skill set is always going to be. My nephew was just asking his father about being a welder. Those type of classes, I believe, are taught at BOCES. So whether you're HVAC, construction, any of those things, I think a lot of our youth, particularly the at-risk male youth, they're not told about this stuff. They're always pushed towards education, and it's not necessarily that education is a bad thing, but everybody's not geared for academic rigor.
That's true. I said, but listen, people need to be exposed at an early age,
right?
And not use skilled labor as a quick fix because the book work didn't take off the way that we wanted it to. Which means engaging our young people in a different way early on, elementary school. And some of that is, I know there's some conversations happening around that now, just to give them options as to what they want to do as we move forward. Here's a question about the People's Campaign. So I talked a little bit about my platform, but when we say the People's Campaign, these pillars of housing, job, and environment really came about as a means to invigorate the folks that are on the ground, right? The folks that are really looking for opportunity to move from their current situation, right? And again, so work. And this is really crazy, right? We hit COVID and things transpired, and now folks are talking about it's hard to get people into jobs. I think that the mindset has just shifted.
Yeah.
And people now see their value to the employers. And that is a big part of the issue. But we want to get people to work, right? And again, not in with part-time wages. We're looking for folks to get prevailing wage jobs with benefits, so they are able to take care of themselves and their families, and then get into places to live that are safe, affordable, and sustainable. Our housing market, not just here in the city in which I live, but just across the U.S. is shot. It's aging, and there is now opportunists that are they understand that there's really nowhere for folks to go, and can charge obscene rents without really making repairs. We need to attack that, right? We need to attack that. And again, that takes an organized movement of individuals that understand their rights as tenants to really push back on some of our absentee landlords that are here. And again, it's not just in our space. This is the thing it is happening. And then I go back to my long-term vision. I'd really like to see a climate council, which is, I've seen them in other municipalities, small cities in the Niagara County region, to really start to investigate and do some of this work on our air and our air and lived environment, particularly with bringing back the treescapes to help reduce the heat index into these condensed neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Now, also with that, when you talk about the air and the environment, do you think that's probably one of the main reasons why you see it, and not just in Niagara Falls, but that's just the point of reference that we're using right now, like the people with more influx like asthma, lupus, and sickle cell, and those type of airborne type of diseases that's kind of it's taking its toll on people.
I didn't hear. I didn't hear the first part of your question. I heard the latter.
No, I had mentioned you were talking about the environment, the air and different things of that nature, and I was like, do you think that's part of the reason why it seems like there's an influx of people with like lupus, sickle cell, more people with asthma and things of that nature because of the environment and the air? And I think it's taking a toll on people. And it seems like it's an influx of people that have those diseases.
So with giving a disclaimer that I am not a doctor or nurse, research has definitely shown that this is why asthma specifically persists within our condensed cities because of the air quality, which again is just a byproduct of factories. Some of it is genetic. But we have to take care of our environment to take care of ourselves. I mean, I'm asthmatic. I am, and I've been for a very long time, and it is now controlled from medication, from an inhaler that I take every day, and then I have a rescue inhaler that I very rarely need. But prior to that, I had a lot of issues, and so things that happen in environment, again, we also have to take care of ourselves. But when we are in these situations of poverty and lack, it's kind of hard when we are deciding on medication or food. And many of our folks are in that space. Roxanne has a question here. If Niagara Falls begins to rehab old buildings, worker will need certifications that will open employment. So I know that those are definitely certifications that are required for those buildings, but I don't know if specifically if they're owned by the city. I would think that they would come through the union. But yes, I believe that they would also provide opportunity for those in those spaces to find other opportunities for work, whether it be in construction or one of our other organized labor spaces.
And see, for me, it's no secret that this is the way I feel anytime they start when they remove the trade opportunities. I know they have stuff at BOCES and stuff like that, but those should be in every, and you only have the one high school, and that doesn't make sense either. It should be multiple high schools to give people options and choices. That once those opportunities were removed with the construction and the welding and auto mechanics and things like that, I think that brought about a lot of crime and poverty. And the push was for career and college readiness. And some of our black boys just They ain't trying to write papers. They ain't not saying they can't, but they're more on hands with stuff. So I think when they had those opportunities, these young people can go out in the workforce and make $30-$40 an hour, which is good for the family, and which is good for the community, and you would have less poverty, less crime, and stuff like that. So when they're knocking on their heads for solutions, well, that's one of the solutions. You wouldn't have the young boys to say, okay, I gotta get out here and hustle and get out in these streets, because they may be walking into jobs making at 19, 20 years old, making $40 an hour.
Right. But again, I believe that it's something that has to be introduced super early on, right? I'm talking about, let's expose them in elementary, 4th, 5th grade, because
earlier.
I'm just giving a time of when maybe there's some understanding, and we can say, oh, like that looks cool, right? They may have an uncle or somebody that's into it. That looks cool, and then revisit it again in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
By then, they may have a decision as to which way that they want to go. Should they be thinking about trades? But there should always be the option. Because, doing it on the latter part of it often is, a catch-all. It's seen as a catch-all for our young folks, and isn't received as this will probably benefit you. So, exposure to resources at an earlier part of our lives is definitely more beneficial.
Because I think one of the things that we miss out on in the city is to what you're saying and to what David has alluded to. When you start to look at non-union jobs, that if you're set out on a path early in life, you can actually go into a business yourself. You wouldn't need to unionize. In other words, you could bypass being a union employee to go into to being an entrepreneur and hiring people. So you could be a general contractor where you specialize, where you have people that you hire that can do electrical work, that can do plumbing, that can do all these things. All of a sudden now you've created a conglomerate to which you can go in and start bidding on government contracts. So when they're building buildings, you can say, hey, look, my company can do this for this much. And I think that's an untapped market that a lot of people in the city aren't aware of, because they just simply don't know that it exists. We get everybody trying to build a business from the ground up, which is not bad, but they won't tap into where the real money is. The real money has always been in government contracts, and it's always going to be in government contracts because the government doesn't build. So I always tell people, hey, look, we can get the people that aren't geared towards academics. We can get the people that are geared towards academics. We can say, hey, look, you like to do accounting. We need lawyers. We need this. Why don't we all come together and form this conglomerate? We can go out here and get these people to write grants. We can get these people to back loans, and we can start to form these businesses. That way, when these kids come in, or maybe they're a felon. They're a felon with a non-violent felony, and they say, hey, look, I just need a place to work so I can get off the streets. I just need to be able to do this so I can get back on my feet, get back on the good foot, so I can get out of this nonsense, because I don't want to be a recidivist. These are the type of things that a lot of people are unaware that they can do. And it's like you said, there's the 1 foot, 2 foot. Get those people together with these people, and all of a sudden now you start to create an environment to which you intervene before these kids even get a taste of the street life. And all of a sudden they say, man, I'm not going out doing that. I'm not going out banging with y'all. I can go here. I gotta get up Monday morning so I can go to this job.
Right.
Making $35, $40 an hour.
Well, I'll say, listen, knowledge and understanding is key to success. But everybody is not cut out to be their own boss. Right? Because it you still have to show up and work.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so like I'm keeping it a buck. Like this is what it is, right? You still have to show up and work. Nothing comes to a sleeper, right? We have to engage on all fronts. And so like just making information available to people in a form that they can readily understand allows people to make choices for themselves. And that, I think I would park it there and say, let's work on that.
Yeah.
And giving people options.
So, Brian, let me ask you this. If you were given $1 million grant, what would you use it for and why?
Whoa. Well, I know $1 million isn't a lot of money. So that's the first thing. It's not a lot of money. For me, I think I would start with homes. And you're probably like, why? I just recently just was inquiring about some space and why can't this entity, get some new builds, for people to try to identify to be new homeowners and what have you. And I was really told, well, the cost of building is through the roof. We're not going to make any money. And so if I'm getting something for free, I'm going to go ahead and build these homes and we're going to put them on the market, making them affordable so that folks can get into them and start to create some generational wealth for themselves. I have some place to stay that I can afford to stay in. It allows me to live a happier and healthier life and take care of my folks. You're probably like, oh, you wouldn't build a community center? Right. As I'm looking at you. I was waiting for that. And so
I wasn't even thinking that.
I'm like, listen. And I would say no. We have community centers in our city right now, and the issue is we are stuck nostalgically to the ones that we went to. So when someone asks us what we want, we immediately regurgitate. We want a center for the kids. When we can make use of what's here, and I again say we should be working to create jobs and generational wealth for these young people and ourselves, right? Because I don't have a will to lean into.
The thing about the thing about centers though is centers were just one of many places that we went. Now, more often than not, we created our own sports, if you will. We were out in the fields playing baseball, basketball, local parks. So it wasn't always about the community centers. I mean, they were a place for us to gather, but that wasn't the end all be all. You find parks with us playing baseball, basketball. The only thing about it was when the winter time came, that a lot of that stuff dried up because you couldn't be outside. But I mean, we snowball fights. You go sledding at certain places. I mean, that was the thing we did. But now you have the advent of cell phones. You have a lot of people, adults and kids alike, who've gotten into a sedentary lifestyle. So they don't believe in going out having snowball fights. They don't believe in going out ice skating, doing those type of things. Me personally, I like the ice skate. Now, I don't throw snowballs like I used to, but I can still get out there and do those things. Think about it. How often do you drive around the city and you see snowmen? Winter activities, they lag. I mean, we used to have the festival lights. We used to go down to the festival lights all the time. Walk there, walk here, walk there. You rarely see kids in groups walking.
Well, that's part of that bringing opportunity. Or when we we're talking about jobs, like how do we create something that reinvests into the community? So our industry, spoken or no, is tourism. And while I know and understand that, I think we still need to have a space for the people that live here to engage in as well.
Well, one thing, yeah, I was
with that, whatever the amenity is, whatever the attraction is, whatever the place is, like we shouldn't. There are times when we're here and we feel like we're not invited, but this is our space. So I think starting to craft it in that way would allow people to see some investment in them and we would engage, hopefully in a different and more beneficial way. But when the mindset is, if I think it's for the tourists, I'm not going there.
Well, that two things to that. Number one was the splash. You always go to the Niagara Splash, and even though it may have been suited for tourists, it wasn't out of our reach per se. And Lackey Plaza, ice skating in the wintertime, that was something else. We could go down there and ice skate. So that wasn't for the tourists, just for the local townsfolk, because it just happened to be downtown. And I think those type of things, to what you say, they also help with the quality of life. You get people out in the community, from the community, doing communal things. Now,
right.
Who's going to be able to participate? That's a matter of this or that. But there's so many untapped resources, like you're saying, that all it takes is somebody willing to actually open a door so people can see these things and start to utilize it.
Right.
And see, for me, when you talked about, and that wasn't even a thought when I thought about the grant, but when you think about the community centers, all too often, many of our parents think of, okay, the community center is somewhere they could go play sports. But I remember when we used to go to the community center on Center Avenue, I used to have to go to job training every Tuesday and do mock interviews and things of that nature, work on your resume. So I don't know if any of that stuff is still going on, but it's certainly, if it's not, then it should be more of that for children, and even parent workshops, etiquette classes for young ladies and men, and when they start dating each other and different things like that. Whatever you see what's going on, it should be experts or people that's their craft to be brought into there to have different workshops and series of things to kind of get people back on track with the social aspect, because again, during the pandemic, we lost out a lot socially as well. So we're still climbing out of that hole where some people still haven't got back to where they were socially.
Our communication stopped and then morphed into something else. And I think we forgot how to be with each other. Right. So we're already separated by fake borders and, this part of town or that part of town, or how we look or how we feel. And now COVID. And so now we're put back together. And that which people thought would remove social isolation, but it's still a difficult place to be. So when you talk about those programs, though, I think about I used to tutor right at the center, and first jobs, summer camp at the center, and the same things are happening, at least in one place that I know of. There's even entrepreneur classes for young people. That's actually doing very well. Does there need to be more? I would say yes, but things are happening, and I learned some time ago that I don't know unless I seek, right? Because things aren't as evident as we think they are, as they used to be. So some diligence just needs to be done, really, to help share some of the programming that's taking place right now.
So let me ask you. So Brian, who are you actually running against, like for city council?
So man, there's a host of candidates at this juncture. So I do have a primary, which is the official day is next Tuesday, June 27th. Early voting is taking place right now. Within the city, you can go down to the Amtrak train station or Wheatfield Community Center. But James Abendanza, Gwendolyn Streeter, Unica Lewis, Jim Perry. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and I am the fifth candidate.
So how many people actually come out of that? Is it 2 or 3 finalists, or?
So there are 2 seats that are available.
Okay.
Currently, for the duration, right? So I am an endorsed candidate for the Democratic Party, working families. I have organized labor endorsements from 1199 SCIU, CWA, Building Trades, and most recently UAW. So I have, a team of folks that were really trying to get out and talk and knock doors and pass lit and really just get some folks interested in what the People's Campaign can be if we truly engage. But it's definitely a bit challenging right now. So yeah, two of us met. As a matter of fact, the minor party lines will come about in November. So there'll still be a host of candidates that will be available. Again, so I'm pushing as best I can to get folks out to vote and just help to identify why the People's Campaign can and will change the trajectory of what we'd like to do here in Niagara Falls.
All right, so let me just ask this. So why should you get one of those seats?
Man, I would say some years ago, I would have never thought about it. And when time came for folks to actually identify whether or not they wanted to run, and I said, why not me? Right? Why am I feeling that I'm not in this space to actually lead from this level? I have, for just about the past 10 years, made sure, not with this in mind, but because I knew it was the right thing to do, engaged with my community in such a way where I am now seen as a leader, where I understand that my responsibility is to help work with others and to help uplift to the best of our ability, because it's not just me, it's the things that we do together to help uplift to the best of our ability so that we can all live our best lives. And again, that comes back to having a job that helps us take care of our people, living in a place that's sustainable, eating as healthy as we want to in the moment, being as physically active as we are able to in the moment, having access to healthy health care, and just educating ourselves on this civic process to know that it is for us, right? I now understand my role in this space, and it is to be an example for others, right? To get there and say, like, look, where there's ones and twos of us, there's room for more. Let's engage our city. Let's engage each other as a community, and let's rebuild this beautiful space filled with people that want nothing more than to love on their folks and just live their lives. We just have to do it together.
And I can honestly say, from sitting back just watching, it seems like you kind of built up your body of work and been a part of different facets that makes a strong community leader. Whereas some of the other candidates, well, obviously I'm not there anymore, but I don't really know what they do. But you've been a visible force out there, and I commend you on that for making sure you kind of line up everything and kind of building up your resume to run for this position. And hopefully other people see that and say, "Yeah, this guy's out there. He's out there grinding. He's out there talking the talk and walking the walk and being part of these different, committees and having different jobs that kind of helped you out along the way." So I salute you to that.
Peace, DG. Thank you. I was man. I've been for a while. Like, you don't tell people about the work, you just do the work.
Right.
And when I started this journey, somebody had to tell me, like, you're going to have to start to talk about the work now. And it's it is a humbling thing, and allows me to be proud at the same time. Like, man, this is a new day.
Yeah.
And I say, I know that if I can engage like this, that others can. It just takes that one encounter, right? Because that's what got me here, that one encounter to really open the door to identify, like, you have it, let's go.
It's I you know I not and of course I've already I've been through the process quite a few times. It's it's a humbling yet rewarding experience, whatever way it goes. I mean, you step into a realm that very few people have and will do it. And like David said, you to be commended for that. So whether you win or you don't, I would always tell anybody, the process is always there.
Mm-hmm.
As like my boy told me when I ran, you got political capital with you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you decide to do with it, make sure you do something with it. So whether you go into you stay the course, if you don't win, you go back next time or whatever it is. Because I know I went from city council to school board and I wasn't successful in either endeavor, but the doors that those things opened up would have never otherwise opened to me. And now I sit back a decade. Literally, it's been a decade since I ran, and it's just like, I'm a better person for it, and I'm better for my community for that. And I always tell people, I don't care who you are. I think anybody that achieves the age of 18, you're eligible, should run for politics, should run for political office, because it makes you a more engaged person. So you understand how things work. So you're not out here, because you have a lot of people that are casting disparaging remarks against politicians just because they don't like them or they don't like their policies. And the first thing you say is, do you vote? No, I don't think voting matters. What are you complaining about then? Oh, what do you plan on? No, I ain't gonna run. They not doing me like that. Oh, you mean they're not doing them like you do other people? Yeah. And so, continue success, man. I wish you all the best, man.
Appreciate you. So make sure though you come out to vote, right, Eric?
Oh, I'm one of those people that they send the special letters to. The funny thing about that is this. I remember, because I dropped out of high school, so I didn't graduate high school till I was 20. The first time I voted in a presidential election was for I forgot his name just that quick. Was for Ross Perot. So yeah. I go back. So yeah, I was one of the few people in high school that was eligible to vote, and I did. So I believe in voting, whether it's for school board, city council, mayor, or county legislator. I'm there.
And it starts there. Just the belief in the vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know we talked about it being an hour long. We're a little over that. So I know, Brian, you need your sleep because you'll be out on the hustle again. But do you got any closing comments you want to say to the people, or maybe encouragement to vote, or any closing remarks?
Well, I'll again thank the Controversial Counselor's Corner for inviting me here on tonight. I really appreciate just being given an opportunity to build with you all for a minute and to speak to the people, those that decided to tune in. And just thinking about what Herb left off with, in my mind, I'm already there. I've already won, right? Yeah. The greatest capital that a person can have, the greatest point of resources, is relationships that are built. And I have been doing that over the past several years, and really seeing that move as I navigate this political landscape. And I believe it will be for all the better, for what the People's Campaign is looking to do with the people, and for me personally, and for those that decide to take this journey, right? That decide to do this thing that is change making inside and out, and allows us to see what our true job is while we're here taking up space on this earth. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I hope to engage with you all at a later time.
Absolutely.
No problem. Appreciate you coming on. Like
man.
Herb said, wish you the best of luck, and we'll be following you and, sharing your information, and, we'll talk whatever, but keep on moving forward.
All right,
That's all I'm
DG.
saying.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Peace, Herb.
About to get out of here. See y'all next time.
All right,
Peace.
people. Y'all take care.
Peace.